There is something profoundly powerful about being a parent, the immense desire to protect your children from everything. But what happens when you realize you can't always be there for every obstacle they face? This is when many feel the anguish of not having control over the influences, choices, and challenges they encounter. It's like watching from a distance, knowing the world is vast, unpredictable, and that your protection has its limits. This is where the transformative role of prayer comes in. Not as an automatic ritual, but as a living connection with God, who hears every word and understands every concern of the heart. Praying for your children goes beyond asking for protection. It's like handing the helm over to the one who sees all, knows all, and can do all. Imagine being certain that, even when you can't be present, God is actively intervening in their lives, guiding, protecting, and shaping their future in ways you never imagined. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed, unsure of how to prepare your children for life's battles, know that prayer is the key. It is a simple act, but with eternal impact. Because when you pray, they are not only protected, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally equipped. It's like building an unbreakable shield around them, even when everything seems wrong. In the world we live in, full of struggles and challenges, praying for your children is like raising a barrier of protection around them, something that goes far beyond what the eyes can see. When a father or mother kneels and places in God's hands what is beyond human control, and let's face it, there's so much that is, physical protection is just the beginning. There is also the spiritual shield, which protects children from negative influences that attempt to shake their faith and character. Imagine prayer as dressing your children in an invisible armor, capable of protecting their minds, emotions, and decisions. After all, everyone wants to ensure that their children have the strength and courage to face the challenges ahead. Prayer extends to those moments when parents simply cannot be present. It could be on the way to school, during a difficult decision, or even in situations they see as lost causes. Think, for example, of a shy child dealing with the fear of speaking in public. Prayer can be the support they need to feel they are not alone. God works in the little things that are beyond human reach, protecting their hearts, minds, and even their future. Such a powerful shield is something no one can buy, but it is available to any parent who chooses to trust. And it's not just about physical or emotional safety. Prayer has the power to combat spiritual attacks and open paths that were once closed. When a parent prays, they are declaring that their children's lives belong to the Creator, who has plans for peace and purpose for them. It's like entrusting God with what is most precious. Prayer is more than memorized words or formal moments. It is an intimate conversation between the hearts of parents and the heart of God. It's like picking up the phone and speaking directly with the one who has the power to transform any situation. You don't need elaborate speeches. God doesn't seek beautiful words, but sincere hearts. When a father or mother prays for their children, they are basically saying, "Lord, I acknowledge that I can't do everything, but I trust that you can." This humility is what opens the door for God to act in an active and powerful way. And this connection is not only about asking, it's about trusting. Imagine you're crossing a river with your children, but the waters are turbulent. Prayer is like reaching out for God to guide your steps and theirs. It could be as simple as saying, "Lord, take care of them today at school," or as deep as crying out for direction in an important decision, like choosing a career. The key is understanding that, by speaking, you are not alone. You are inviting God to walk beside you in the journey of raising your children. This practice also strengthens the parents themselves. As they connect with God, they find the strength to face challenges, whether it's dealing with a toddler's tantrums or a teenager's rebellious decisions. What's interesting is that this constant communication transforms both the one who prays and the one for whom they pray. It's a cycle of victories. As you place your children's lives in God's hands, He shapes you to be the example, the support, and the inspiration they need. Praying for your children is like planting seeds in the fertile ground of their lives. These seeds not only grow into influences like external emotions, but also have the power to shape their hearts, minds, and spirits. When a parent prays, they are helping to build character and strengthen their children's faith. For example, if you pray that your child has a kind heart, God works in their emotions and attitudes, allowing them to develop empathy, patience, and generosity. Prayer is, in a way, an act of investment in their spiritual future. But do you know what makes this practice even more special? It also transforms the parents themselves. During prayer, many find themselves confronted with their own limitations, fears, and even failures. It is in these moments that God extends His hand, offering wisdom to face challenges, patience to handle difficult situations, and strength to stand firm in the role of guide. Thus, as the children transform, the parents also grow in spiritual and personal maturity. It's a cycle that benefits everyone involved. Prayer is also an opportunity to correct the course and align family goals with God's purpose. If parents have doubts about how to act or which path to take in important decisions, prayer brings clarity. It's like a lighthouse in the fog, illuminating what seemed impossible to see. This practice reinforces the role of parents as spiritual leaders and creates an environment at home where faith is a priority. In the end, the whole family wins, living with more purpose and peace. Prayer doesn't have to be grand or formal. It can happen in the simplest moments of everyday life, like during a walk, while preparing coffee, or before a meeting. When it comes to children, every moment is an opportunity to intercede for them. Imagine taking them to school and silently asking God to protect them that day. Or perhaps, before going to bed, say a short, direct prayer, thanking God for another day and asking for wisdom for what lies ahead. It's this kind of constant connection that keeps the heart in tune with God's divine purpose. What makes the difference is the intention behind the prayer. It's not just about asking God for things, but about opening your heart with sincerity and trusting that He is in control. For example, when facing a challenge, instead of worrying casually, a father or mother can take the moment to say, "God, I don't know how to solve this, but I trust that you will guide my child." This trust transforms the prayer into a genuine dialogue, not just an automatic or repetitive act. It becomes a moment of dependence and surrender. And here's the secret: consistency. Praying isn't just about today, but about tomorrow too. It's about covering current challenges and already planting prayers for your children's future. Ask God to prepare them for difficult choices, to strengthen their faith on tough days, and to protect them from what you can't even foresee. After all, while parents have limits, God has none. This continuous practice creates an invisible shield that surrounds your children, making them stronger in every area of life. Friendships and relationships shape the path children walk. Who hasn't worried about the influences around them? Praying that they are surrounded by positive people is more than just asking for protection, it's asking God to place mentors, friends, and partners who will inspire them to do good. Imagine a teenager facing tough decisions about who to hang out with. Prayer could be the invisible strength guiding them to choose the right company, someone who encourages them rather than leading them off the right path. Moreover, purpose is something only God fully knows. Praying for your children to discover and fulfill this purpose is like planting seeds of direction in their lives. Perhaps you've seen someone lost, not knowing what to do. That's why asking God for clarity about your children's dreams, goals, and talents is so important. They may discover unexpected passions or even overcome fears that once limited them. Prayer prepares their hearts to embrace God's calling with confidence and enthusiasm. So, it's not just about overseeing their attempts, but about strengthening their integrity and resilience. Praying for relationships also involves asking God to empower them to resist negative influences and handle conflicts maturely. After all, everyone faces interpersonal challenges, but with God's support, children can grow in wisdom, empathy, and faith. Every prayer said today echoes in each decision they make, forming a solid foundation for their future choices. The journey of praying for your children is much more than a protection act, it's a calling to transform their lives and yours too. When you take time to surrender your fears and concerns to God, something extraordinary happens. Not only do you open the way for Him to act in their lives, but you also discover a new level of peace and clarity to guide each step as a parent. Think about it. Each prayer you make is like a seed planted in the fertile soil of your children's lives. Some of these seeds may blossom immediately, while others will take time, but at the right moment, they will bear fruit, purpose, resilience, and faith. This is because God doesn't just listen, He works behind the scenes, shaping everything for good, even when you can't see it. So, today, you have the chance to begin or intensify this transformative habit. Take a pause, connect with God, and ask for what only He can do. And remember, prayer doesn't need to be long or perfect, it just needs to be sincere. In the end, what truly matters isn't the number of words, but the consistency and faith behind them. Praying for your children not only influences their actions and choices, but helps shape their spiritual identity. Through prayer, parents can ask God to strengthen their children's values, faith, and character, so that they grow with a solid foundation in God's Word. This foundation helps them face a world full of uncertainties and temptations. As Jesus said in Luke 6 verse 48, those who build their house on the rock are unshaken by the storms. As parents, we can pray that God instills in our children a thirst for knowing Him, reciting promises like Proverbs 22 verse 6, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Such prayers give our children an anchor that will keep them grounded, even in difficult times. We all go through moments of vulnerability. In prayer, parents can intercede directly for those periods of doubt, fear, or pressure. Prayer connects human weaknesses to divine strength, as seen in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, "But He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Now, imagine your child going through a tough phase at school or work. Praying for courage and wisdom, specifically quoting Isaiah 41 verse 10, "Do not fear, for I am with you," and asking God to engrave this verse on their heart is a way of reminding them that they are not alone, and that there is strength available when they feel weak. Decision-making is part of life, but often young people don't have the maturity to choose wisely. Prayer is a powerful tool to ask God to give discernment and wisdom to children, as in James 1 verse 5, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally." So, before a big decision such as choosing a college or accepting a job, parents can pray, asking God to open the right doors and close those that would lead them astray. This intercession can be done practically with short daily prayers, asking for clarity and peace in their choices. This act will help prevent children from making decisions that could negatively affect their future. Because a parent's prayer is not just for the present, it plants seeds that will blossom in their children's lives for generations. Just as Abraham's faith blessed his descendants, parents who pray consistently will create a lasting spiritual impact on their family's future. In Psalm 78 verses 6-7, God instructs us to pass on teachings to future generations so that they would put their trust in God. A legacy of faith can start with something simple, like teaching your children to pray before meals or upon waking up. As they grow, parents can encourage them to seek God in all areas of their lives, showing how prayer has shaped their own story. As much as parents want to protect and guide their children, there are things beyond their reach. Prayer is a reminder that God is in control and that He loves our children even more than we do. Philippians 4 verses 6-7 encourages us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." So, in moments of uncertainty, like when a child leaves home for the first time, parents can cling to prayer to ease their worries. Instead of living in fear, they can ask God to watch over their children, trusting in promises like Psalm 121 verse 8, "The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore." Praying for your children not only blesses them but also transforms the parents themselves. Prayer helps parents become more patient, gentle, and healthy, aligning their attitudes with God's divine purpose. Colossians 3 verse 21 reminds us, "Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged." When parents pray, they receive strength to correct and guide with love, not anger. Imagine a day when a child's behavior frustrates the parents. Taking a moment to pray can completely change the perspective, allowing them to respond with calm and grace. The world we live in is filled with external influences that can shape children in ways that are not always positive. Social media, toxic friendships, entertainment, and confusing ideologies are just a few examples. Praying for protection is like raising a spiritual shield around them, asking God to guard their minds and hearts. Proverbs 4 verse 23 warns us, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." When parents become intercessors, they entrust these situations to the one who can be present at all times. But what does it practically mean to pray for protection from influences? It means asking God to filter what their children consume, helping them discern what is good and edifying. For example, instead of just restricting access to technology, parents can pray for God to give their children wisdom and self-control when using these tools. Additionally, it is essential to ask God to place positive friends and mentors in their lives who will help them grow toward His purposes. It is also important to remember that protection is not just about isolation. Praying for protection from external influences is trusting that God will equip them to face the challenges of mature and spiritual formation. This includes facing temptations and resisting peer pressure. By asking God to help them choose the right path, parents can also encourage open conversations about values and principles, reinforcing the importance of making wise decisions. Another relevant aspect is praying that God reveals hidden dangers that children may not see. Often, young people may be drawn to people or situations that seem harmless but lead to negative consequences. Praying for the Holy Spirit to guide and protect is essential to avoid traps that may compromise their spiritual, emotional, or physical well-being. Family conflicts are inevitable, but they don't have to be permanent. Prayer acts as a powerful tool to restore broken relationships, bringing healing to wounded hearts. Through it, parents can seek wisdom and strength to act in a reconciling way. In 2 Corinthians 5 verse 18, we are reminded that God gave us the ministry of reconciliation, showing that forgiveness and love are divine instruments for restoring bonds. Restoration begins with a humble heart, and prayer helps in this process. Praying for restoration doesn't just mean asking for the other person to change, but also asking God to work on oneself. For example, parents may pray to reflect on attitudes or words that need to be adjusted. Often, reconciliation begins with a simple, "I'm sorry." God deeply loves and we are willing to act in obedience to His calling. Another important aspect is praying for God to heal past hurts and traumas, both in the children and the parents. This may include moments of silence where we ask the Lord to bring to light hidden wounds that need healing. Restoration is not instantaneous, but constant prayer creates fertile ground for God to transform what is broken. Trusting in His timing is essential for the process to be genuine and lasting. Furthermore, prayer as a tool for restoration strengthens family communication. Parents who pray for their children create a space where dialogue is safe and constructive. For example, when facing disagreements, praying together can break down emotional barriers, allowing words to flow with honesty and love. This not only resolves the immediate problem but also establishes a healthy pattern for dealing with future differences. Restoration through prayer is a reflection of God's love in action. When children see their parents seeking reconciliation with faith and humility, they learn to value family unity as something sacred. This inspires them to apply the same principles in their lives, creating cycles of peace and harmony. Thus, prayer becomes not just a request but a way of life that builds up the entire family. In a world that constantly tries to define who we are, it is crucial for children to find their true identity in God. Praying for this means asking God that they see themselves as He sees them, loved, valuable, and created with a unique purpose. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 reminds us, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart." When parents pray for their children to understand this truth, they help lay a solid foundation for their self-esteem. Praying for the identity of children is an ongoing act that involves more than just words. It is a process of building spiritual and emotional security. Parents ask God to free them from destructive comparisons and help them appreciate their own gifts and talents. For example, if a child faces bullying or self-doubt, praying for God to strengthen their confidence can be a great support. In this way, they can firmly believe that they are created in the image of the Creator. Prayer is also a request for children not to be molded by the temporary standards of the world but by eternal values. In Romans 12 verse 2, Paul exhorts us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." By praying for children to remain firm in their Christian identity, parents can ask God to help them not seek validation in the wrong places. This protects them from falling into traps like consumerism or the frantic pursuit of popularity. This includes asking God to reveal His purpose for their lives and empower them to live according to it. When parents pray specifically, for example, asking for wisdom in choosing a career or relationships, they are helping to prepare the ground for decisions aligned with God's plans. Finally, strengthening the identity of children through prayer also involves encouraging them to draw closer to God. This can include encouraging them to read the Bible, participate in church activities, or simply reflect on their spiritual journey. In doing so, children learn that their identity is not something static, but an ongoing walk with God, full of discoveries and growth. The future may seem like an unknown and even frightening territory for parents, but prayer transforms this uncertainty into trust. Praying for the future of children is trusting that God is already there, taking care of every detail. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 offers comfort when it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." With this in mind, prayer becomes an act of surrender. One way to pray for the future is to ask for wisdom so that children can make the right decisions. From school choices to major life milestones, parents can intercede for God to illuminate their steps. For example, when choosing a career or a life partner, it is important that they have discernment to align these decisions with divine purposes. Praying for this early on helps prepare the way. Beyond practical decisions, praying for the future involves asking for unshakable faith. The world is changing rapidly, and challenges can test the spirituality of children. Therefore, parents should ask God to strengthen their faith, so that they may be resilient in the face of trials. By trusting the future in God's hands, parents also teach that no matter what happens, He is in control. Another aspect is praying that children will have a positive influence on the world. This is asking God to equip them to be a light wherever they go, as Matthew 5 verse 14 encourages, "You are the light of the world." Parents pray that their children will be leaders with integrity, ethical professionals, and individuals who impact others' lives with love and justice. We cannot predict or control everything, but surrendering every detail to the sovereign God brings peace and hope. This practice reinforces the certainty that God's love is greater than any challenge that may arise.